Welcome to an explosion box mini album tutorial video. I'm Charee Filimoehala here at the Graphic 45 headquarters, and I'm excited to teach you how to create your very own rectangle explosion box. Fun part about this is it has a hidden mini on the inside as well. And then to go along with it, we're going to be creating this great little lid using our Graphic 45 Kraft chipboard sheets. And then we'll be decorating the top of the lid with our rose bouquet roses and then some of the fun embellishments that come inside of our Deluxe Collector's Edition. And for this month, for Volume 3, we're going to be using our birdsong to decorate this beautiful explosion box. And then inside, you can see that's where the magic really unfolds, featuring these great staggered pages that we're going to be creating also with those chipboard sheets. And you can see these staggered pages really showcase the papers beautifully. And then along with that, to make it even more exciting on the inside, we have created a waterfall mini album feature. And then we've done that just with a nice, easy hidden hinge that we will show you in this tutorial how to create. It's great for this box, but it can be used on so many projects that you create in the future as well. So this explosion box has been created for us by the wonderful Annette Green. And along with this explosion box for our Volume 3 Club G45, Annette has also created these super fun origami envelopes. So these are a great way to use up your leftover papers. You can use these for cute little gifts or add them into your projects just to provide more opportunities for photos and whatnot. And then the second origami envelope is also the perfect little size for a gift card. So to learn how to create these envelopes, go ahead and hit that description below, and then you'll find the link once you're done with our explosion box. So grab your papers, grab your chipboard, and let's get started. For Club G45 Volume 3, you're going to be getting in your kit a photo project sheet with step-by-step directions, along with some of our rose bouquet in the Triumphant red flowers. And then you'll be getting our Birdsong Deluxe Collector's Edition. And you get a lot of fun goodies in here. You get 24 double-sided sheets. You can see here on the bottom. And then you'll also, in that DCE, be getting 2 cardstock sticker sheets. These are a nice heavy-duty cardstock. And then, of course, to get your projects nice and dimensional, we have some chipboard as well to go along with that. And then to create our explosion box, you're going to need these Kraft chipboard sheets. This is a nice medium weight, and then you get 10 sheets in there, so a lot to work with. And then to store all your goodies, your kit also comes with a Graphic 45 sealable bag. Let's get started on our Birdsong explosion box. Whenever you're doing any of our project sheets, it's always nice to look at the notes before you get started. So we also have the supplies listed up here for you, as well as the tools and adhesive that we would recommend. So it's a lot of great information, but for this project in particular, some of the notes that we want you to be mindful of is when you're cutting your papers, be sure that you are noting the direction of the patterns. And then also, I won't be doing this on my tutorial, but the sample, then the photos have been inked up on those edges using some nice black ink. So you can see there's some nice distressing on those edges, and Annette has just used some black ink. And of course, Graphic 45 has our Decades inks, and our black is called Photogenic. So you can grab any coordinating inks if you do want to add some distressing. And then the last special note is if you are going to be creating the origami envelopes, that you cut out that paper first. So you can either make the envelopes first, but if you're not doing that first, we would just suggest that you take your Joy Luck paper and cut it out to the measurements listed here, which are 8 5/8 by 9 7/8, and then put that aside so you don't cut into that while you're cutting your papers for our explosion box. Step 1, we are going to be taking our Kraft chipboard sheets and we're going to be cutting those down to create our base of our explosion box. So we have cut our different pieces you see laid down here. We have 2 different pieces that are going to be the top and bottom. These are going to be 6 3/4 by 4 3/4. So it's this top piece here and this bottom piece. Our 2 side pieces are 4 3/4 by 5 1/4, and it's both the left and the right piece. And then our center piece is 6 3/4 by 5 1/4. So now we're taking some 1/2 inch adhesive. You can use something larger, but we wouldn't really recommend going smaller than a 1/2 inch dry adhesive. If you don't have anything like this, you could also use some nice construction paper and some wet adhesive also, and do a similar thing, cutting 1/2 inch strips and then adhering these down. And then we're going to leave about, for all of these connecting pieces, just a little bit of space between the 2 pieces so they can move, and we want that to be about 1/16 of an inch. So now that I have I'm using some score tape, it's my dry adhesive down, I'm just going to eyeball a piece and just cut a little more than I need. That way I'm not working with my big roll while I'm trying to get my placement down. So I want this to be 1/16 of an inch of room between the 2, and then I will go ahead and add my adhesive right in the center. And then when I come to the edge, I can trim off my excess. And then always, when you're using a dry adhesive, it's nice to just kind of go back over it with your bone folder. That way it gets a nice bond with whatever you're adhering it down to. So now we're going to do our other side. So I've trimmed my piece to be approximately just a little bit longer than my edge, and then eyeballing that this is nice and even, with 1/16 of an inch of room. Step 2, we're going to take our piece of bird song and we're going to cut this down to be 7 3/4 by 6 1/4. And then on all 4 sides, we will score at 1/2 of an inch. So just take your bone folder and score at 1/2 inch, and then turn, 1/2 inch, turn. So now we're just going to cut out the corners on all 4 of these like so. You can see I've done that on all 4. And now on our birdsong side, we want to leave our nice dragons unadhered. We're going to add our dry adhesive to all of those tabs. Once your adhesive is on all 4 tabs, go ahead and burnish that down. Step 3, we are going to pull up our adhesive from our chipboard. And then in the directions, it says not to pull up your adhesive strips on your paper yet. However, my adhesive is over 1/2 inch, so it did go over our scored lines. So in my case, and if you're using a larger dry adhesive than 1/2 inch, you will need to do this as well. So you'll need to pull up those pieces, and then just with the best you can, eyeballing it, we're going to want to find the best placement before we set this down. So just making it fit the best we can. And once you've done that, you can take your bone folder and adhere down. And this is going to be the bottom outside of our box. so we can start to fold up our edges. You can see I've already added one strip on the inside, which you don't need to do at this point. Just got a little ahead of myself, but we can make sure that it's all going to come together nicely, just kind of creasing and folding it up, making sure it's all adhered as well. Step 5, we are going to do the same on the inside. So just taking our score tape, we'll be adhering this on the inside of our box, just right in the center of our 2 panels, adhering those together. And then don't forget to burnish that down, making sure you're getting a good seal, getting out all those air pockets. And then with a piece of longevity, we've cut this down to 7 3/4 by 6 1/4. And then we are going to do the same, just scoring a 1/2 inch on all 4 sides with your scoreboard and your bone folder. And then of course we are going to trim out all 4 of our corners again. Next, add your double-sided adhesive to the back side of your tabs. So we want the black side to be the side that's showing on our box. So I'm going to be adding my adhesive to the stripe side. Of course, if you'd rather have the stripe side showing, you can go ahead and mix and match and do it however you like the best. And like we were saying in the intro as well, that this box would look so nice with any paper collection or any of Graphic 45's Deluxe Collector's Editions. You could recreate this project to suit any of your needs. If you want to recreate it just like we've done, you can go ahead and get our kits. You can pick them up at a local G45 retailer or on our website, g45papers.com. But there are a lot of our international G45ers out there. We do have a store locator on our website as well that'll help you find our products close to you without having to spend all that money on shipping and handling overseas. So check out our store locator on g45papers.com or go ahead and email us at info@g45papers.com and we can help you out there as well. And now we'll just remove the adhesive. And now we'll remove the adhesive. And then also on our paper, if your dry adhesive is a 1/2 inch or smaller, then you can remove these parts later. But since I'm using a larger dry adhesive, I'm just going to do it all now. And then we're going to eyeball, making sure we get the perfect placement. And then at that point, now we can go ahead and start lifting our walls up. Step 7, we've flipped over our box. So we have the bottom, the red part of our box facing up. And then we are going to add some papers onto the sides of our box. So we have cut 2 pieces of Joy Luck to be 6 3/4 by 4 3/4. And then we've cut 2 more pieces of Joy Luck to be 5 1/4 by 4 3/4. And then these are going to go on our panels. And when we're adhering these down, we want to make sure that the pattern design is going to be right side up. So because this is a box, you want to just think about it dimensionally, how it's going to fold up, and you want to make sure it is all going the right direction. So I've added adhesive to all of my pieces, and a fun trick on how you can figure out if everything is going the right way up. If you can find like a little animal, a butterfly on the paper, and you can see that they're the right side up, then you know that you're in a good situation. So I found that butterfly, and now I'm going to adhere onto one of my side panels. Step 8, we are going to flip this over and we are going to repeat our step 7, except this time we'll be doing it with our harmony paper. And we are going to be cutting 2 pieces to 6 3/4 by 4 3/4, and then 2 more to be 5 1/4 by 4 3/4. So I've added adhesive to the backs of all of my pieces, and now just finding those little butterflies and making sure that they're flying upright. We can go ahead and adhere these to all 4 of our panels. Step 9, we are going to be creating our lid. So we've finished up the base of our explosion box, and we'll put that to the side, and now we'll start working on our lid. So we're going to cut another piece of chipboard, and our largest piece is going to be 7 inches by 5.5, and then we're going to have 2 long pieces that will be 7 inches by 1.5, and 2 side pieces that will be 1.5 by 5.5. So for step 9, we are going to be putting together our lid just like we did in for the base of our box. So I have just loosely cut some pieces that should fit the long sides and the short sides as well. So that way I don't have to deal with that whole roll while I'm trying to get my pieces nicely aligned so they're about 1/16 of an inch apart from each other. And it's also nice when you've kind of got it set down, you can look on the other side to see your spacing, and if you like that, then we can go ahead and burnish that score tape down and then cut off our excess. And then we'll do the same with all 4 sides. And now that I have put this together quite a few times, I am learning just some new fun ways to do it. So a great way to do this to make sure you're getting it even is I'm just going to put half my adhesive on halfway onto my chipboard base, and then I'll flip that over and you can see I have that nice overhang. And now at this point where I can see a little bit better and I have more control, I can lay down my side piece exactly where I want it to be. Like so, and then burnish that down. Step 10, we're going to go ahead and peel off our backing. This is going to be the top of our lid, so keeping that in mind. Next, we are taking a piece of Tranquility and we're cutting this to be 7 inches by 5.5 inches. And we are going to place this just right on the top center of our lid. So matching up those corners. Once you've got that down where you want it, you can go ahead and burnish our paper down. And now we are going to be forming the dimension part of our lid. So just taking our box pieces and forming a nice 45-degree angle. We're going to go ahead and tape these shut. So I'm using some nice, just some clear tape. You could also use some washi tape if you have that in your stash that matches. Either one will work because you won't be able to see it. So I guess the washi tape doesn't even need to match too much, just if you do overhang it from the bottom that you trim to fit. So now I am just going to trim this off. Just forming a nice 45-degree angle. And we'll do that with all 4 of our corners. Step 11, we are cutting out 4 pieces to be 7 inches by 1.5. And these are our side, going to go on the sides. So we're going to start with one of our shorter sides, and I've already added adhesive to the back of this. And we are going to just start wrapping this around. Like so. So now you can see it's over folded onto one of our corners, and the great part about this is it's just going to give our lid some extra strength having that wrap around. And then we'll add the other 3 pieces just overlapping and giving it a nice sturdy side. Step 12, we cut out 4 pieces from Pearls of Wisdom to be 2 inches by 1 7/16. And then we just go ahead and folded that right in half. Or if you want, you can take your scoreboard and your bone folder and score at 1 inch. And I've added adhesive to the back side of this. And then we are going to be inserting them into our inside corners of our lid. So just matching up in a corner, I have it nice and folded, and then I can just slowly guide it inside my box, just adding that extra strength inside. Once we've added our corner structures to our inside of the lid, we're going to move on to step 13, where we've taken Pearls of Wisdom and cut down our big piece to be 6 7/8 by 5 3/8. And then we have 2 long side pieces that are going to be 6 7/8 by 1 15/16. 2 side pieces to be 1 15/16 by 5 3/8. Now we are going to take all those sides that we have done, and we are going to score on the long side at a 1/2 inch on all 4 of those. Step 14, we are going to be adding our side wall pieces into our lid first. So it's just, I've scored on that score line, and now this is just going to go nicely into our box. And we're going to do all of our side pieces before we put in the centerpiece. And then doing this also just makes our box that much sturdier by having that paper hinge from the top of the box to the sides. It's really fun to make an explosion box with chipboard because it makes it really sturdy. And then it also shows you how you could easily create a box for any of your projects. So just if you wanted to adhere your sides together on that base that we created earlier with the same technique, you could go ahead and do that, and then you could create like a little recipe box, or you could create a photo box, jewelry box. Like, the ideas are endless. All right, now that I have all my pieces in place, I'm just gonna go over it once again with my bone folder. Perfect. And then we can adhere our large piece into the center of our box. And then to burnish this down, you can take the side of an ink pad or a credit card and get some good bonding going on. Now's a great time to see how your lid and your box all come together. Make sure that everything's measured right and looking good. So it is all coming together beautifully so far. Step 15, we are going to be taking the back side of Pearls of Wisdom, and we're going to fussy cut out 4 of these white fans. So I'm just going to go in and grab this one for now, but you need 4 of those. And now that we've cut it out from our paper, we can fussy cut around this fan real quick. It's always fun to showcase how you can take some of our busier papers, even some of the backgrounds, and then just pull apart those images and use them as embellishments. It's a great way to use up all your papers and scraps and really add a lot of extra flavor to your projects. So now that I have fussy cut my fan, I'm going to make this into a 90-degree angle, because as you can see from our lid here, we are going to be using those as cute little corner pieces. So just using a paper trimmer or something else with a nice straight edge, you can go ahead and slide this into that paper trimmer so it's the tip of the fan corner is where the blade is, and then we'll be just cutting off a nice little triangle. That way we're making a nice 45-degree angle circular piece. And then just for consistency, you can see I don't have a black edge on one side and I do on the other. So you can either ink your edges or you could just simply trim off that little black bit so it is nice and consistent. And then do the same with all 4 of your corners. Step 16, we are going to be decorating the top of our box. So we want to be cutting out 2 different pieces, 2 of these vertical stripes that are going to be 7 inches by 1/4 of an inch. And we have 2 of those, and then we have 2 of the shorter sides that are going to be 5 3/8 of an inch by 1/4 inch. And then we can adhere our pieces, start to adhere them onto our box. So when adhering these on, I'm going to be using a nice liquid adhesive since these are small little strips. And you can use whatever your go-to liquid adhesive is. And then we'll just be working our way around the box. So I've added on one of my long pieces. Now move on over to our short pieces, and because our fans are going to be on our corners, we don't have to worry about mitering or making it look super tidy on those edges because our fans are going to cover up that portion. Now that we've added our border, we can go ahead and add our fans in the corner. So I just want the corner of my fan to match up with our box perfectly, like so. And then just work your way around. And then from your chipboard set, we're going to be taking this large frame element and just adhering this down to the center of our lid. It gives it a nice focal point. Grab those rose bouquet flowers, and we are going to start to add some really fun dimension on the top of our box. So you can really decorate however you'd like. I'm just going to be placing my pieces down while I make sure that I like the arrangement. So when it comes to embellishing, that's always a great tip, is to just kind of play around with the arrangement before you adhere anything. All right, so then once you have the basic idea down that how you'd like it, we can slide things off and then start to work from the bottom. So the bottom here is we want to make sure that we're putting our leaves down. And we're just going to be adhering all of our rose bouquet pieces down with some nice liquid adhesive. So I just put some adhesive on my stem, that way I can move it around as I like. And then next I'm going to just start working with my largest flower, putting that nicely in the center. And this nice rose piece with the leaves with it. Add some extra texture and dimension down here. So now we're going to add some of these fun little rose buds, and they do have these nice wire stems on them, so you can just wrap these around for some extra little fun dimension around a paintbrush or a pencil. So when we adhere this down, I'm going to tuck this underneath here, but the stem's going to come over to the side like so. And then I'll do that with another one of these cute little rosebuds. And then this is going to tuck down under here. Like so. Once I have my placement, I can take that liquid adhesive and just adhere these down. And then with this last one, we are just going to trim off that wire and then just adhere this right down on the bottom. And add maybe a bit more of adhesive to our big buddy. And then we'll do the same up to the top. So you're left with a few extra stems and some more roses that you can use on future projects. And our flower bouquets should look like this on top of our box. Now we're going to just do a little bit of embellishing with chipboard pieces. So you can see here we've taken one of those chipboard buttons and we've left those little circles on the inside and adhered that down here. And then we've done a cute smaller little chipboard circle at the top of the box, and then one over here just nestled by our large rose. And then last but not least, on our lid, we are going to be adding this beautiful little tag piece with some coordinating ribbon and just tie a bow in there. Step 18, we are creating our second layer. What we do is we're going to cut 3 pieces to be 6 inches by 4.5. So all 3 of these pieces are the same size now. And then our side pieces are going to be 4.5 by 4.5, and we'll have 2 of those. And then we are going to do the same thing where we join these together with 1/2 inch double-sided tape. So just to refresh our little tip, I'm just going to I cut out 4 pieces that are approximately the size of our chipboard base, and I'm just going to put that halfway on my top and bottom, my 1/2 inch score tape. Oops, it's the side. Like so, and then I'll flip these over, and now I can attach my top and bottom chipboard pieces. Making sure I have a nice 1/16 of an inch between the two and that they are nice and even on all sides. This way it just gives you a little more control and you can see what you're doing a little bit better. Flip that over and now we'll do the sides. Now we're going to just take a few more strips and place it to the center. Step 19, we're going to pull up our adhesive tape just on our edges. So we'll leave these 3 adhered down with their backing still. Now with Enlightened, we are going to cut 2 pieces to be 6 inches by 4.5 and then 2 to be 4.5 by 4.5. And we'll add adhesive to the back side of these and then adhere onto our explosion box piece. So now that I have all of my lanterns adhered down onto my new piece of the explosion box, I'm going to go a little bit out of order on the steps on the project sheet because my adhesive was bigger than 1/2 inch. So there is quite a bit that can grab onto the table when trying to adhere down our top layer papers. So just to make sure that that doesn't happen, I'm just going to adhere this down now, which won't affect our project at all. So I've taken off the backing adhesive and now I'm just going to find the center on our original base that we have created. And then once I have it nice and even everywhere, I'm going to go ahead and let it my pieces fall. And once it's even, you can go ahead and burnish this down. All right, so now skipping on to back to step 20, we are cutting out 4 pieces of Good Fortune, and we're going to have 2 of them be 6 inches by 5 inches and 2 of them be 5 inches by 4.5 inches. And then we're going to go ahead and score 1/2 inch on the inside edges of all of those. So this is my left hand piece, my right hand piece at top and bottom. So after you add your adhesive, then you can adhere your panels down like we've done before, just having our 1/2 inch score line go over onto the base. So it creates that nice extra strength, making sure that we can love this piece for years to come. So just matching up our corners, and we can go ahead and work out any air bubbles. And now our explosion box does have that second layer in it. Coming together beautifully. Step 22, we're creating our 3rd layer in our explosion box. So we're going to cut our base piece to be 5 1/8 of an inch by 3 5/8. And then we're going to cut out 2 pieces to be 5 1/8 by 4 1/4. And 2 pieces to be 4 1/4 by 3 5/8. Then add your tape as we have done with our last 2. And then we are going to take, for step 23, we are going to take cherry blossoms and we are going to cut out 2 pieces that are going to be 5 1/8 of an inch by 4 1/4 and 2 that are going to be 4 1/4 by 3 5/8 of an inch, and peel up our outlining tape, leaving these 3 attached, and then we'll adhere our pieces onto our panels. Now that we have our cherry blossoms adhered down, again, because our tape is exposed, I just peeled off those 3 center ones and I'm going to adhere this down now. So just finding our center. like so. Once you've found that perfect position, you can go ahead and burnish that down. Step 24, we're going to cut out two pieces that are going to be 5 1/8 by 4 3/4, and two that will be 3 5/8 by 4 3/4. And then on those 4 3/4 edges, we're going to score at a 1/2 inch. Once we have all of those butterflies adhered down, we are looking good with our explosion box, and we're ready to move on to our hidden hinge waterfall album that's going to go right in the center. So now we're taking a piece from our Joy Luck that's going to be 11 1/2 by 4 1/2, and we're going to do a lot of scoring to create our hidden hinge here. So our first score is going to be at 1/4 inch. And then we will skip to 3/4 inch. And then to 1 1/4. And then to 1 1/2. And then to 2. And 2 1/2. So there is a pattern where it goes 1/4 inch, a 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/4, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/4. So if that's easier for you, you can do it that way, or you can follow along with the same measurements. So now that we've done 2 1/2, we are back to 1/4. So we're going to 2 3/4. And then we're going to go back to a 1/2 inch, so it will be 3 1/4. And another 1/2 inch, which will be 3 3/4. And then 1/4 inch, which is 4 inches. And 4 1/2. 5. 5 1/4. 5 3/4. 6 1/4. 6 1/2. 7. 7 1/2. 7 3/4. 8 1/4. 8 3/4. 9 inches. 9 1/2. 10. 10 1/4. 10 3/4. And 11 1/4. So now you should have a lot of score lines like this. Now we are going to start to fold on our score lines. So we want our 1/4 inch spaces to be flat when we're creating our hinge system, and our 1/2 inch pieces that have been doubled up together, those will be mountains. So then my 1/4 inch space will be flat again, and then my next two 1/2 inch pieces will point upwards like so. So you can see this one I have pre-worked, so you can see how it's all starting to come together with those 1/4 inch spaces in between our hinge system. Now we are going to add some adhesive onto the back now that we have created all of our score lines. So it's going to be on that first 1/2 inch mark. So we've got a 1/4 inch adhesive on our first 1/2 inch mark, and then we'll leave the next 1/2 inch and next 1/4 inch blank, and then on that first 1/2 inch mark we add adhesive again, leaving the next two blank, add adhesive on that first 1/4 inch mark, or 1/2 inch rather. The next two are blank, and we follow that pattern. So you can see like this. And now once we start to peel up, we can pinch together our mountains, and it will leave us with a really nice hinge system with 1/4 inch spacing all the way along. And then there's a nice 1/2 inch little mountain fold for us to grab onto for when we're adding on our pages into our mini album. So you can see it's all coming together beautifully with those 1/4 inch flat spaces. And when you do that pre-folding, it just kind of makes it easier when you're adding that adhesive, and then when you're folding it all together to make sure that you've got the right pieces and you don't accidentally skip one. The great thing about this hinge system is that you could add it into a book cover that you could create. Could add it into all sorts of things to create your own mini album. So once you know how to make that, you could do all sorts of things. So step 29, I've added some dry adhesive to the base of our explosion box. And this is where our hinge is going to go down. So I'm also going to add a little bit of liquid adhesive to this just to make sure we're getting as good of a bond as we can get. And in the directions on step 25, it shows that our base is covered with some of this beautiful butterfly paper, but because our hinge covers that all, we don't actually need to add that paper, and it's not actually listed. The paper isn't listed on the project sheet, it's just shown in the photo. So if you see that the photo looks different on the project sheet than it does from what we're creating, it's not to worry, because our hinge system is going to cover that right up. So just add your hinge to the center of the base. And then I like to go through each of our little 1/4 inch valleys to make sure it's nice and bonded with the base of our explosion box. Step 29, now we're going to be creating the pages that go into our stacked hinge. So we're going to be cutting out 2 pieces from Shanghai Girls that are going to be 4.5 by 8 inches. Then we'll be cutting out 2 pieces from Longevity, and these will all be the same 4.5 by 8 inches, and 2 from Birdsong, 2 from Pearls of Wisdom, and 1 from Tranquility. And then we are going to score all of these pieces right on the long 8-inch side at 4 inches right in half. So now we're going to start to glue in our cut pieces that we scored at 4 inches. So the first one that's going to go in is one of our Birdsong pieces. So I'm going to adhere liquid adhesive on half of my panel, and then also at the other end, just on the edge, like so. So once I have my adhesive on, now I am going to go in onto my first little hinge, and on there I'm going to sandwich my 8-inch piece over that 1/2 inch hinge. And then I want my 1/2 inch hinge to be exposed by about 1/8 of an inch. So I don't want it to go all the way down on my hinge. So just leaving about 1/8 of an inch on both sides and making sure it's nice and straight. We learned that handy dandy tip from Ginger Rop of My Sister's Scrapper. When you leave a nice little bit at the bottom, about that 1/8 of an inch, all your pages are going to lay down on the flat side rather than when you put it all the way down at the bottom of your hinge, then your pages start to be able to not lay down as flat anymore. So just you're going to adhere those all the same way. And so we're starting off with Birdsong, and then we have a Pearls of Wisdom, Shanghai Girls, Longevity, Tranquility, Pearls of Wisdom, Birdsong, Longevity, and then ending with another Shanghai Girls. So that is just going to give you a lot of opportunities for adding in all those photos and personalization. And then you can see it's all starting to come together. So at this point, give yourself a pat on the back. You have done the hard part of making your rectangular explosion box with a hidden mini album. And then if you want, you can decorate however you want. You can go ahead and add your photos in and then add your embellishments and decorations around while you're adding in all of your personalization. Or if you want to continue on, we are going to show you just some fun ways to use up the rest of your papers and embellishments to decorate the inside of your explosion box. For step 32, we're decorating all of our right-hand panels. So these nice chipboard panels on the right. And the first one we are going to do is decorate with a happiness tag. And that is from our Tranquility paper. And then from Joy Luck, we've cut out a square that's going to be 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. And then we've added a cut apart from Shanghai Girls. And then we've cut a piece from Harmony that's 3 1/2 by 4 inches. And then we've just added some nice chipboard and a little bit of wax twine to give it some extra dimension and some extra fun elements. So we've added a chipboard button there, 2 other cute little chipboard circles, and then a chipboard tag with this nice little wax twine bow. Step 33, we are repeating the cutting process of the papers on our left-hand panels, but we're just adding some stickers. So this is a sticker on our first panel, and we've got the same chipboard on here so it mimics the right side. And then we also have a button here. And now for our top panel pieces, we're working from the back. We have a piece of Harmony that's been cut to 5 inches by 3 1/2. And then we've added a cute little chipboard tag and another wax twine bow. You could really just leave them blank or use any of your coordinating ribbon in here. You just want to make sure it's not going to be too fluffy that you can still put the lid on your box, to keep that in mind. And then we have a cut apart from Tranquility here on our lantern page. And then for step 35, we have a 4 1/2 inch by 3 1/4 paper from Tranquility. And then we've added another chipboard tag with a little bow. And step 36, we've added a 4 inch by 3 inch rectangle from Enlightened. And then we've just embellished it with this nice little scalloped sticker, and then added a square chipboard piece. And steps 37 through 39, we're doing a very similar that we did from our top panels. Now these are our bottom panels working from the back. So we've cut our papers to the same dimensions and then added this happiness chipboard with a bow. And from Tranquility, we've added another little tag, which is offering a great place to do some journaling there as well. And then here we've added a Phoenix tag chipboard piece. And then we have the same design with the scallops and the chipboard just on the top and bottom versus the bottom and top. So they have a nice mirrored look. And then to our Waterfall mini, we've added just some nice little stickers. This one says we've added the letters to spell out dream, happiness, tranquility, these cute little circles, a nice little journaling space, joy luck, birdsong, joy, enlightenment. So it's a fun way to show you how to use those stickers, but you can also leave these pages blank until you're adding in your photos, and then add, whatever sticker looks best or works, sentiment works best for the images that you're adding in. So big thanks for joining us today for this super cute and fun explosion box with a hidden mini album. We hope you had a good time creating along with us, and we can't wait to see your projects. So be sure to share them with us using that Graphic 45 hashtag on Instagram, as well as on our Graphic 45 community page on Facebook. So thank you again, and be sure to hop on over to our other birdsong tutorials for this month. And if you're looking for more tutorials like this every month, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you get an email alert every time we add a new tutorial. Thank you so much for joining us, and as always, happy paper crafting.